Tenet, spicy, and Knights and Bikes. This is Staying In. I got an unusual gift for Christmas, and I want the Sage Council to determine whether it is a genuinely nice present or a slightly sarcastic one.
Okay.
Can we just check, Sam, is this a gift from your father, whose legendary status as a gift giver has been spoken about before on the pod?
No, my dad actually didn't send us anything for Christmas. He sent my son a card, but his words to me were, "We'll have to wait till we're meeting in person."
Oh no!
I hope it's not perishable.
Can I ask, was the card signed from Nick brackets granddad?
No, it was actually really sweet. And it was like one of those massive like fold out concertina cards with a massive long poem in.
Oh, I like them.
And he wrote in it. It was really sweet. It was like, "Lots of love from granddad brackets. You might have to get help from someone to read this."
That was very nice. That was very sweet. Okay, well, tell us what the gift is. Give us some context.
Okay, give you some context. So this was from my mother and father-in-law, who I think like me. I think they do. And it is a mug, and it's one of those is it like a tin mug, like a
Yeah.
like a tin mug?
Yeah.
A really nice, like sturdy kind of thing, when I'm around the house doing jobs.
Yeah.
On the side of the mug, it says the following words: "In case of emergency, ask Sam. Hashtag source of all wisdom." And then it's got a picture of a light bulb with the words bright and spark either side of the light bulb.
Yeah.
I'll hold it up to the camera now so you can all...
Okay, so ask Sam, source of all wisdom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This sounds more of a brag, Sam, to be honest. Than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, this feels like a humble brag, doesn't it?
My parents-in-law think I'm intelligent.
I'm great. Guys, do you think that's weird?
Yeah. The font of all knowledge.
Yeah. I guess you could read it that way.
I guess you could. Oh well, never mind. Yeah, I mean, I think that's lovely. Source of all knowledge. Also, I guess you could read it as, in case of emergency, Sam, who has caused the emergency, will know what it is on account of having caused it. Bright spark.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Right.
Like, my own self-confidence pitches it in that tone of voice.
Right. No, I don't think they sell mugs specifically to make people feel terrible. I think they are. I don't know many mugs that are specifically meant to make you feel awful. I think that's lovely. I think that what a lovely thing for your parents-in-laws.
Yes.
Parent-in-laws. Yeah.
Yes. In-laws.
Yeah. The in-laws. What a lovely thing to get, and a nice tin one as well, because they do feel more rugged.
I don't know when to use it though. When do you use a tin mug?
You put it in the shed. I
don't have a shed anymore.
Well, you got to buy a shed.
Do I need to like dig a hole? I feel like I need to dig a hole and then you know.
And then take a swig from it every once in a while. Say, we've earned this.
Because the thing is like one of my Christmas presents to myself was a new like Chili's flask for hot drinks. And because I bought my wife one, I was like, oh, while I'm here, I might as well buy myself one. Why not? And I thought when I first unwrapped it, it was like, oh, this is great. A new mug that I can take to work and use in my Chili's. I can't really take this mug into work, can I?
You could.
No, I think you can take it into a job interview though.
But I'll get bothered, won't I?
What do you mean you'd be bothered?
I'll be bothered. People will bother me.
Yeah, but we've already discussed this. They don't know your name's Sam. They call you things like Anton or Simon.
Yeah.
And then they'll think I've stolen it.
Well, clearly not a bright spark, is he, that Sam?
Yeah. Stephen, what are you doing with that mug?
That's Sam's.
I tell you one thing I did do, I bought for myself. I spent a lot over the last month. I've bought myself a bed and I've bought myself a mattress online. We're talking about gift giving as being buying a gift for yourself. I had a long conversation with Sam trying to and ah about buying a mattress, because buying a mattress is something you physically want to go into a shop and experience.
Sure.
I've not been able to do that. So I've read a lot of mattress reviews online. Believe it or not, there is an entire website devoted just to reviewing mattresses. And the level of forensic detail.
You're joking.
No, I am not. And I've rinsed it all to find the right mattress for me, allegedly, that will work for me. It's going to be arriving in the next week or so. It's one of those ones which is just got a person's name, and you get 100 sleeps on it. If you don't like it, they'll come and pick it up. And it's like a hybrid. I was listening to Sam's advice, because you've got a hybrid mattress, Sam, I believe.
We do have a hybrid.
So because apparently, Pete, if it's all foam, you get too hot. If your person tends to overheat when they sleep, you don't want to go all foam, apparently. So I've gone for a hybrid that's somewhere in the middle. Kind of like the bed that I believe Goldilocks would have slept in, pretty much. So it's top half or top bit is foam, below bit is springs. But yeah, there is a website that reviews mattresses in incredible detail.
There's an amazing YouTube channel that just reviews vacuums.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's incredible.
It's incredible. And like, the thing is that I do sit there and think, what an amazing life to lead. Like, so what do you do? Oh, I review mattresses for a living. What a strange start to a dinner party conversation. But also, it is incredibly useful, especially right now.
When we went mattress shopping, it was like the worst few weeks of shopping I can ever.
Why?
Because we went to loads and loads of shops, sat and lay on loads and loads of mattresses, and you can't judge a mattress from just laying on it with those weird plastic things at the bottom, without any covers, without any sheets on it. You're lying there fully clothed, and it's like, yeah, this one's
for 8 hours.
This one's nice, I suppose.
That's your problem. You were fully clothed.
And we spent months and months going around so many shops looking for mattresses. Then we just bought one online.
Do you think it's like when you, back in the days when people would go 10-pin bowling, and afterwards you hand the shoes back and they just spray the inside of them? Do the people do that with the mattresses? They just sprayed them all down after everyone's lied on them.
Oh, God.
So I'm hoping it's going to be good, this thing. I really am.
Have I ever told you the story of the time me and my wife went bed shopping and we broke a bed?
What?
Again, what a brag. He's just bragging, Pete.
Yeah,
constantly.
We broke... I know I'm the font of all knowledge, but I actually broke a bed.
We went to a very popular a wood-based land of furniture. And we were hang on, and we were going looking for a new bed. And again, when you look for a new bed, you're just like lying on them going, yeah, well, this is a bed. And my wife was laying on one, and then I came and joined her, and I didn't get on it at all very vigorously. I just laid on it, and then suddenly this massive crush, and the bed just kind of in cartoon style just like completely collapsed from underneath us. And and we just ended up just like laying there for a couple of minutes, just like, did I just make the bed collapse in the middle of a furniture superstore?
Wow.
It is the modern day equivalent of did the world move for you? Yeah.
As part of obviously, everyone here knows my New Year's resolution this year to crack an egg with one hand.
Excellent.
It's going all right.
Is it going all right? It's going okay?
It's going all right, I think. Yeah, but not quite there yet.
Okay.
But as the other part of my resolution was, as you know, was to have one lunch every week that wasn't a sandwich and a packet of crisps. And to help track that progress, I found a really good app. Right, it's called Time Cap, and there's lots of different apps that are like this, and they're basically like habit tracker apps.
Okay,
and I spent a lot of time like trying to find the best one for me, but I have to say, like, I found it exceptionally useful. So essentially, all it is like it's an app you just download and you have it on the phone, and basically you set like either like a goal that you got to complete, or something you want to track, or a certain like count activity that you want to count of that you've got to complete in like a day, a week, a month, or a year. So for me, like this app means that I've got on it like no sandwich like every week, and I can just like tick the box and it will log that I've done it for that week, and then when the next week ticks along, the same like objective will come up. And like the app's been really good in being able to be like, so eat 2 bits of fruit every day, and every time I eat a bit of fruit, I press a little button and it's like, right, yeah, you've done 1 bit, but now can you do 2? And like able to put like drink 8 glasses of water every day, and I can track it all on that. And also it's like, it's been really helpful in because I've wanted to this year make more of an effort to like read more, watch more films, and do more stuff like that. So I'm able to track stuff on it, like watch a film every month. And it means that like, so I can look at the app and go, right, oh, I've got to be watching a film before this month is out to get this complete. And like, I've also put listen to an audiobook for 3 hours every month. And I can press a button and it will start a timer. And then when I listen to the audiobook, it will stop the timer when I finished. And so at the moment this month, I've listened to 1 hour and 40 minutes of an audiobook. And like, it's stuff that I can slowly like increase and add to. And like, with the aim that I'll essentially start developing like habits around these kind of things. Yeah. So I found that like really useful. And I have to say that the watch 1 film every month has been smashed this month.
Really?
Absolutely.
You have a schedule.
eviscerated. I'm really, I mean, I've banked films for the rest of the year almost. And some pretty good ones as well. We watched Soul the other day, the new Disney Pixar
Pixar right,
one.
okay.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's about a guy, a jazz teacher who was formerly a jazz artist, dies and doesn't want to go to the quote-unquote great beyond. So tries to get back into his body on Earth.
And you say it's about jazz?
Well, he's just like a jazz musician.
Yeah, I don't think jazz is really the thesis of the film.
No.
Right. Because it's
Otherwise
called
it'd be
Soul.
called jazz.
It's about like, you know, meaning of life, purpose of being.
Oh. Kids film, is
all
it?
that kind of stuff. Yeah, well, the problem with the film is when it reminds itself about halfway through that it should actually be a kids' film. Like, the bit leading up to it, like the existential stuff is really interesting. And then it suddenly remembers, oh, damn, this should be, right, put his body into a cat and put that body into a person, and then...
We're missing a fart gag here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also watching, Hugo and I are 3/4 of the way through Onward, which is another Disney Pixar
Yes, I've
film,
watched that.
which I'm actually really enjoying, actually.
I was pleasantly surprised by it, actually.
Really good, like some of the best slapstick I've watched in a long time.
But also, I think for you as a new dad, I think it's a lovely thing to watch for your son.
Yes. And Kris and I also watched Tenet, and Hugo was there as well.
Yeah. He was very vocal in his opinions, actually. I was quite surprised.
He slept for most of it, and then it got to a point where he'd had enough.
Yeah.
So, sorry, it's Tenet?
Tenet.
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 Oh,
It's
okay,
a
right.
palindrome.
So what's
Tenet.
What's Tenet about? What do I...
Oh,
Ooh,
blimey.
I can...
Riley, Charlie.
Oh, it's going to be one of them movies, isn't it?
Pete, do you remember 10 years ago that I came to Bristol and I showed you Inception?
Yes, I do. I remember watching that.
It's that guy who did that.
Okay, yeah. The one with the... he spins the spinner and then it doesn't fall down, but maybe it does?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Tenet, right? In Tenet, there's this guy, and he's literally called the protagonist, right?
Oh,
so
no! I had enough of that. I had enough of that with Snow Crash, where the main character's name is hero protagonist. And I was like, Fine. On this one occasion, I will let you get away with it.
Okay. So, right.
No.
So, in this film, through a series of events, he discovers that inverted objects are a thing. Right? Okay. So he discovers that through some degree of radiation, someone has been able to invert objects, which is essentially reverse the process of entropy.
Yes.
Which is essentially they're managing to send objects backwards through time. Okay.
Okay.
Because the idea is the big bad of the film is trying to essentially reverse all of time to stop a big climatic climate event that's referenced but not seen. So the idea of the film is essentially just like the name suggests, Tenet it's a palindromic film. So essentially the whole film is based around set pieces where you see them forwards, but you also see them backwards at the same time, and how those two things interact with each other. So characters like interact with themselves coming backwards into a scene whilst they're always also going forwards.
Yeah.
But then later on in the film, you'll always also see them traveling as inverted. So they're traveling forwards in their timeline, but really they're going backwards to everyone else, and interacting with the people who are going forwards through time. And it's a Bond movie, but with science fiction.
Yeah, in the same way that Inception was a heist movie with a science fiction kind of action kind of layering on it, really.
Right, yeah.
I remember, I think it was my dad was teaching me entropy, and I was trying to talk to Hugo about it as well.
What?
Like one of the examples I like, because entropy, broadly speaking, it's, as Sam was saying, it's a measure of uncertainty, of randomness, how everything kind of gives into that kind of chaos. So if, for example, Pete, if you left like a stack of paper, like A4 paper on your desk, and you came back into your office 2 hours later, it was on the floor, you wouldn't think too weirdly about that, because it's, it's natural. Maybe there's a draft, a window open or something like that, and it's caused it to scatter. However, if you had deliberately scattered papers over the floor and you came back into your office 2 hours later and they formed a nice, neat little stack, that would be weird. There's a kind of a natural order. And in the same way that like physicists define in part, a definition of life is actually a resistance to entropy. If we don't feed ourselves, if we don't, make sure we're fed and watered, if we're not drinking 8 pints of water a day, that kind of thing, like eventually we will become like that stack of paper that kind of disperses. And in this, it's imagining, well, actually, what if I could instead make the cause the effect and the effect the cause? So a bullet that's embedded in a wall, the actual effect of that is that it will one day get fired out of a wall into a gun. And this is actually, in my opinion, the first time travel film I've watched. Because actually, Back to the Future and Endgame, they're not time travel films, they're time jump films. I pick a point in history I want to go to. We were talking about it in the last episode. If we could go back, we weren't traveling to that point, essentially. We were jumping to it. In Tenet, you do not jump. You have to encounter it in real time. So if I wanted to go back to a week ago, I would have to reverse myself, and then it'll take me a week to go back through that flow of time to get to that point. And my issue with Tenet is not that we saw it on a small screen, because Sam's got a very nice TV and he has a very patient son.
Yeah, these are all just more humble brags for Sam, really, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's not a space on this mug.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that the more films Christopher Nolan does, the less he does any kind of exposition, and the more he keeps grounding his stuff. Like, what makes Inception something that is comprehensible is the fact that it's an elegant concept, but you've got a character there, Ariadne, who says questions like, whose subconscious are we in now?
Yeah, you've got there's the analog for the viewer,
yeah,
basically.
like Neo in the Matrix, which Sam has been watching with Hugo as well. Like we learn with that person. And to start off with in Tenet, we're learning with the protagonist, but there comes a point where he just gets it.
Quite traditionally with time movement films, I can't call them time travel films anymore, apparently, Chris. There comes a point in most time travel movies. It happens in Endgame. I think it happens in Austin Powers. I think it happens slightly in The Good Place, where they just go like, "Don't worry about it." Like Jeremy Bearimy, just like it's timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Don't just sit back and watch it. Like that happens incredibly early in Tenet, and the protagonist just goes along with it, and you're just like, no, but hang on, I had questions.
Like you know the scene I'm about to talk about, Sam. There's an interrogation scene, Pete, that I still can't quite wrap my head around. And I know it's really clever, but because Christopher Nolan doesn't let anything slip, he doesn't have that kind of thing that Steven Spielberg would do, where the camera pulls back and we see the different parts and we're able to kind of take it all and go, okay, right, yep. Because there's a sequence towards the end where you've got one character that exists at 3 places at once because they're just inverting back and forth. But you know it's happening, but you're not really kind of given that point where you see them all happening simultaneously. Think, oh yeah, cool, I'm brought up to speed now. It's just hoped that you'll get it and you'll follow it. And I don't know whether he just takes umbrage with the fact of what he feels is spoon feeding us. But I think it's kind of backfired a little bit, because I think the more I will watch Tenet, the more I will understand it. But I think the less I'll enjoy it, because you'll start to realise there are some issues with it. I think its concept is very well structured. It's very well thought out. Again, like Inception, he spent a long time thinking it through. But the neglect then is certain characters, like Elizabeth Debicki's character, who's basically her role is wife and mother, who's a fantastic actor, but not given much to do. And it's a shame, really, because Christopher Nolan doesn't seem to have a very good track record with being able to write women or know what to do with them, really. And unfortunately, this is the case also with this, really. He makes Kenny Branagh quite scary, which is quite a good thing, quite an incredible thing. But like, it just didn't have the sense of coolness.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a great spy movie. Like, I think give Christopher Nolan a chance to make a Bond film or a straight up and down like spy movie. I think
he just needs to do one.
You see it with like again, Inception, quite a lot of the Dark Knight movies, and in Tenet, quite a lot of all the set pieces are essentially based around heists, of getting into a situation and trying to get out the best way possible. And I think he's just desperate to make a spy thriller. Like like you were saying, Chris, like my main issue with this film is something that Mark Kermode actually summed up gracefully in his review of it. And he said that his main issue with it is the questions that he was left with after the film were all mechanical and not philosophical. Like, the great thing about when you watch Inception is you're left thinking about not the mechanics around it, you're left thinking about the philosophy around it, like the act of like the part the subconscious plays in our decision making. Like, what would it be like to live in a dream? Like, you know, how connected, how much do our dreams actually mirror our, you know, define our sense of self? However, at the end of Tenet, my only questions were, but how did that work with that? What did that do to that? Because again, in the same scene where someone tells the protagonist, oh, don't worry about it, he asks a question about free will and determinism, and she goes, oh, don't worry about it. And then he never worries about it again. But it's just like, it's a perfect vehicle to start to have to frame a philosophical discussion about determinism and and free will in this world where they're all doing stuff that they've essentially already done and affecting the future by stuff that they've done that they then will do in the past, or vice versa.
It's a really good point. And like, actually, it was the equivalent of saying Inception, rather than seeing them plan the heist, they just jump straight into it. Like, there are 2 words that are used here, Pete, to describe a maneuver that you're just supposed to accept, and that is a temporal pincer movement. And like, what I wanted to see was them planning it like they did in Inception, where they assemble the team, each one's got a particular quality, and they say, yeah, we need to do this. You can work on getting the right dosage of the drug so we can go several layers deep. you can design the maze, but don't show me the designs. And we're seeing that process, and we're kind of slowly bringing up our speed and understanding the mechanics of it. So actually, when we go into it, as Sam says, we can kind of learn about the philosophy of it and go, oh my God, what are the implications of this? Yeah. Really.
But saying that though, the more I've thought about it since, the more I've thought that like it was actually really enjoyable, and obviously the biggest caveat is the fact that like that's the biggest film I've watched since Jojo Rabbit. I think that was the last film I saw in the cinema.
Or Parasite, maybe?
Oh no, Parasite was the last film I saw in the cinema. Jojo Rabbit just before that. And like it really felt like it was an event, even though it was in my living room. Like watching a Christopher Nolan film, no matter how much the film sort of pays off, like he knows how to make a film, and it is still an event, even if his politics or his philosophy doesn't always track. Like it still felt like the opening set piece is incredible, the score is brilliant, it looks absolutely pin sharp. The actor playing the protagonist, Kris,
that is John David Washington.
John David Washington is exemplary. The other actor,
Robert Pattinson,
Batman, Robert Pattinson is also, and there's like little things. Their relationship between the two in multiple watches, I think, will bear fruit, and I think that is maybe where the philosophy lies, and more about their relationship than it does the actual stuff about determinism. But yeah, it was still quite an event, and like one that I would have loved to seen in the cinema, but I was glad that like I paid a bit of money to watch, because I've really missed that.
Yeah, this was really the guinea pig for studios to gauge, okay, can we lure audiences out of lockdown into the cinema? And the answer was no, and they lost 100 million on this film because understandably people weren't going to go into the cinema. So Pete, you and I recently had probably one of the longest gaming sessions I've had in quite some time, actually.
Yep.
For two reasons. One, because, you know, it was good for us to hang out and play a game together. But secondly, because we wrongly assumed we were way over 3/4 of the way through this game.
Yeah.
And we weren't. We were about halfway.
I'm sure it's about to finish, yeah.
It's crazy how so many games, like, flub the ending, where you're like, it must be over. Like, A Way Out did this. I feel like maybe the first Last of Us did this. I feel like maybe the Uncharted 4 did this. But certainly Knights and Bikes does this. We were like, yeah, we were what? Maybe halfway through? Maybe a third of the way through?
Yeah. We just got to and.
Yeah. All right, So
what's this Knights and Bikes?
Well,
rubbish.
Well, so when I Kris suggested, because Kris and I have been playing a little bit of multiplayer games, we've been playing all sorts of bits and pieces, and Kris suggested Knights and Bikes, and I was like, sounds good. Don't really know much about it. Looked at a couple of the screenshots for it, and let me tell you, the first thing I thought was, that's a Double Fine game,
Yes.
It is sort of. So it's published by Double Fine, but it's actually developed by a studio called Foam Sword Games. And it came out a couple of years ago now, I think. Yeah, a year and a bit ago.
Yeah, it's made up of former members of Media Molecule.
Right, okay, fine.
Which kind of makes sense, because I think both you and I commented on that as we were playing, how much it felt like their game.
Yeah, Tearaway, Little Big Planet. Less so, what's their newer one? Dreams. Less so Dreams. But yeah, definitely those two. Yeah, when you look at it, you do think, yeah, Double Fine. It's got that very creative, cutesy, rebellious. I like to think of it as like craft punk. Like it's got, there's elements of kind of like mache and like paper drawing, like very much 2D art in 3D spaces, reminding me a bit of Costume Quest as well. Like you're playing as young folks. kids, they're like what would you say they are? I can't gauge the age of children.
I mean,
what are they?
probably around 8 or 9 years old each.
Is that what it is? All right, 8 or 9 years old. And it's about a small British, probably holiday home place. Holiday, like you might go to Canvas Sands,
Caravan park,
or like a caravan park,
Butlins,
like a Butlins. Other
Yes.
slightly disappointing holidays are available. So they are, and it's set there, and there are two main characters that you can play as. We played this entirely in co-op, so if you're looking for a two-player story game, this might be one of those. And it's about two characters who are in this place together, and they are having make-believe real adventures, but that also use make-believe. So knights and bikes. So they are pretending to be knights that are from this island, that are part of the history of this area, and they use their bikes. These are their steeds. So they actually have bicycles, and you can customize the bicycles and get all these cool things. It's kind of a... so it's not really an RPG. It's much more of a kind of action game. Yeah, kind of an action game with a story, I guess. And the rebellious... It has this really rebellious nature to it, whereby it's very modern. It's very... I'm going to sound very old when I say this, so everyone hold on to something. It feels very right on. In a 2020, 2021 kind of way, but it doesn't feel right on in a really cloying, really obvious, really like wearing its colours on its sleeve kind of way. It feels very... They do it through the lens of two children who are... That's just the way they think. That's just the way they look at the world. They want to see the world in a certain way, and it ends up being quite touching, really. Some of the things that some of the themes that they touch upon, which I won't spoil, because I think they are really good little gentle moments of right-onedness that is done really well. And then it's the actual like physical play of it is you are fighting these make-believe monsters and wandering around this kind of open world, this big area, and you go through multiple days, and it's about the adventures that they have. And it reminded me a lot, I don't know about this, if this is the same with you, Chris, but it reminded me a lot of like the adventures I might have as a child in the woods, or like going on, very young and thinking like, coming up with like the lore of what the woods were, of like, oh, that tree fell over during the great storm, and the reason that it happened was because of this and this, and it's all rubbish. It's all just things that kids make up and then pass on down the ages, or like patterns that they'll see in the physical space. So there's a good in the game. There's a good example of this. There's a wizard's tower, and actually, it's not a wizard's tower. Obviously, it's actually a crane, and the logo looks a bit like a wizard's face, but they make it out to be this is a wizard's tower, as you know, a kid might do. And yeah, I don't know if it reminded you of that, Chris, like running around, making up stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like building. I remember it made me think about when I was a kid in my village. We had a den, which was like a tree house. We built like a den in like a tree that was in the graveyard of our local church.
Nice.
And it's amazing how very little you can kind of conjure up these fantastical places. And it's an example of magical realism, ultimately, as you say, seen through the eyes of these two children, one of which is a local... is it Demelza, I think her name is, who is this extraordinary kind of ball of energy, Demelza, who lives with her dad, and she's coming to terms with a loss herself and also the potential loss of this caravan site they live in. But she meets Nessa, who's more of a streetwise cool kid who's visiting from offshore because he's obviously set on an island. And it's about the two of them coming to terms with changes, and also it's about one trying to hold on to this imagination and the other trying to learn what it is to have one. And it's wonderful how they kind of meet in the middle, really, as a consequence.
And certainly, when I talk about, the kind of right-onedness of it, it's certainly the social issues that they're talking about of growing up and understanding how the world works. And I think that framing it in that way is really effective because it's also really disarming. Like when you're with those characters and you go through and you see something that is, could have been handled in a really like bash it over your head, like this is a metaphor kind of way. They don't do that. They really stick to the storytelling and present these generally very delicate scenes in a game that is actually quite riotous, like very loud, colourful. The characters are always making noise, which is great. Like you really feel that they are kiddies, like they are. So for example, obviously you can sprint, so you can run around, you can walk normally, and then you can sprint. And if you sprint, then your the character I was playing as would go like, and because that's what they do. Like kids make loads of noise and they pretend to be things that they aren't, and like as I say, it's really, really riotous and just really energetic. And the music, oh my goodness me, the opening title is absolutely fantastic, and it really. The title sequence really sets the tone. Like it is like if you're not on board by the end of the title sequence, you're like you aren't going to be on board ever.
And that lends itself also to the sound design, which is very kind of Media Molecule. You can see the fingerprints there, where every kind of when you go into the menu, or when you're kind of like scrolling through bits of story, you're clicking through it. Each one makes some kind of weird kind of percussive sound or kind of like horn sound. And when people are talking, you hear the sound of metal being kind of scrunched up. And if it's an adult, it's a slightly deeper sound. And when it's children, it's like tinfoil. And it's just really, really lovely. There's something quite satisfying about having that texture there.
I really like the other thing for me that this kind of gave me a bit of a nostalgic trip with was if you are British, I don't know if this happens in other countries, I'm sure it must do, but it's certainly if you're British and you have had a holiday at home, as in Britain, and you've been to one of these, slightly naff seaside towns. I mean, most of my holidays growing up, they were in, went to Winchelsea. It's a nice place, and Rye. Those two, basically. And nice place, but not really a lot for kids to do. And also the kind of attractions that are there are old and fading, and they're kind of way past their prime, and maybe a little bit dangerous as well. And this game really reminded me of that. And I think that that is a very... As I say, that is a really culturally British experience of going to a slightly naff holiday park and having a wet and dreary, fish and chips in the car while it rains. That kind of holiday. I think if you were talking about like a AAA game, you'd call it like you'd say, oh, it feels really premium. But it's like every element of the game is really thought about. It's got every single element of it expresses this mastery of craftsmanship in that the storytelling is really it's not complex like in your fancy movies. It's not but it is well written. Like the characters feel realistic, even though they are slight caricatures every once in a while. There's certainly characters that are slightly more caricature than others. Certainly loving caricatures. It's very well written. The art style to it is completely cohesive. Like from every element of things. Like a really good example of this is, as kids, you get bits and pieces. We talked about this in what was that game by the Root lot that we talked about?
Fort.
It
reminded me quite a lot of that, actually.
Right.
Carl Ferrin's artwork.
that thing that is in Knights and Bikes of you collect elements, you collect things around you as a kid. You're like, oh, I've got 8 packets of sweets, or like, oh, I've got a ton of little toys over here. Yeah. Well, in this one, like, you collect stickers. That's kind of like the currency, and where the developers could have, like, really phoned it in. They could have just had coins, and nobody would have blinked an eye. But they went with stickers, and then they don't just have an icon of stickers of like, you have 50 stickers. Like, whenever you want to use them to upgrade something, all of your stickers are spread out in front of you like a big collage-y mess. And that is exactly how, I would have had stickers as a kid.
Yeah.
And but it's just, they went to that degree of thinking about, how do we present this in a really authentic way? And that's why when I say like really nicely textured, everything just feels just really, really sweet, really superb, really like they've just thought about every element of it.
This is also a treasure hunt. It also is embroiled in a pseudo Arthurian legend that is built around the area, which you're never really sure if it is true or not. And that's what I really quite love. It still straddles that mythic place. It's really, really lovely. And because, I was playing Nessa, and each of us, Pete, we had different powers and abilities, which meant that if I would happily replay this as the other character, because, I got an amazing sound system that I could use to divert enemies, like incredible bass and frisbees. I had tons of frisbees I'd throw around. Whereas what were your abilities, Pete?
I was able to kick. I do kicks. I do like a ground pound. I have a thing that shoots out like plungers. And actually, the thing I really loved about that is it meant that there was no. It did that thing that good co-op games do, which is it removes quarterbacking completely. Because you both have to be like engaged with the game. There's no like. It's not like you can't really quarterback in the same way that you could with like a Contra or a Metal Slug or something like that. Like, there's no, oh, well, they're just better than me, I'll just let them do whatever. It's, you both have to think about like, well, how do we get past here? Like,
that's good.
It's really good.
Because that's what I was going to ask. Because I think Kris, you are the, you're the center of the co-op gaming world that we exist in, and like, I really appreciate like the efforts that you go to find games and to play with each of us just as little twos, because that's kind of easier to manage than big games of all 4 of us together. So we played like a way out together, and like we dipped into Don't Starve a little bit. So like, if I bought this, would you like, or Pete, like, would you be up for playing it again, playing as different characters? Like, even if you know how to solve the puzzles, like, would you be happy playing it again?
Definitely, because actually what was really lovely about it was that me and Pete could have a good chat while we were playing. Even though it was a new game, we were playing for the first time, we could still have a good chat. And that was nice. It was really lovely. Yeah. And it's a really good game for that. One thing we've not talked about in this game, though, is the MVP of the game.
Yeah. Honkers.
Captain Honkers, which is the goose that follows us. So, Sam, in Ghost of Tsushima, you have the wind. Yes. Here we have Captain Honkers.
Brilliant.
Who basically is like a kind of like a bloodhound who basically always makes sure that we don't get lost as we're kind of running around this island looking for the treasure.
Just what a delightful game. It has that double fine level of, you go into it going, I'm going to have a great time, and I'm going to laugh, and I'm going to be challenged, and I'm going to see something that I wouldn't normally see. And it just,
and it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, just looking at the names of the trophies, I mean, there was one instance where we overfed Captain Honkers and we got the trophy foie gras.
MVP Honkers.
I think one thing that the numerous lockdowns that we've been involved in has like borne fruit is how much I do love a game designed for 1 or just 2 people. Like I find it very difficult to get on with games that call for a higher player count than a minimum of 2.
Sure.
Shall I put it that way?
Yeah, sure.
So things like, even though Captain Sonar is in my top 5 games of all time, like the one thing I don't like about it is that I feel like it's 4-player minimum, and that becomes exceedingly difficult. I think in the same way that we're like, oh, Knights and Bikes is great because it's just 2 players, whereas we actually really enjoy playing Ghost Recon Wildlands, but that's minimum 4 players. It's like genuinely some of my best gaming experiences, like Cosmic Encounter is my number 1 board game of all time, but that's like minimum 4 players. Like I feel like if you're not playing that with a group of 4 people, then it's not going to be as fun. So I've had a couple of 3+ games sitting on my shelf for ages. Both of them are from the same publisher, which is HeidelBÄR Games in Germany, and they are also probably the 2 most loveliest things that I have on my shelf. They both come in these very, very small, like, card boxes, and they both come in this very, very shiny gold, like the same sort of material that, like, the shiny stickers in Panini would be covered in, or like a foil from Magic the Gathering is in. They come in this really, like, decadent gold foil boxes, and so I'll start with the first one, which is Coyote, which is a bluffing game. Well, they're both actually bluffing game, hence the reason why playing it with anything less than 3 people is, very, very difficult. And Coyote, like, sort of like just literally, like, you open it up and it just like springs from the box. And I mean, I'll take some pictures for our Instagram feed. But if I just show you both some of the cards, Chris, you've already seen these.
It's just gorgeous.
It's pretty wild.
But it's this. Basically, the art is so stunning that there is a whole page in the manual dedicated to the cultural background of the art on the cards. So the artwork is from a Tlingit artist, Zona Evan Schroyer, who's a I don't know if she is, but it comes from a very sort of native part of North America.
Okay.
I mean, to be exceptionally reductionist about the art, that Simpsons episode where Homer eats the really hot chili?
Yep.
Yes.
And gets pursued by a coyote played by Johnny Cash. Sure. Which incidentally has some of the best animation artwork in a Simpsons episode ever.
Sure.
This artwork on these cards, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the page in this manual starts with a line that says, "There is no word for art in our native languages of North America. We take something practical and make it beautiful." And with all of HeidelBÄR's stuff, I feel like that's the design ethos running throughout the whole like how they print and design these games. So Coyote is a bluffing game, is probably the most complicated of the 2 that I've got here to describe. What you do is there are cards in here numbered from 0 to 10. There's 115, there's 120, there's a -15, there's a -20, and there's a couple of special cards. And you shuffle the cards together. You each have a card stand that sits in front of you, and you'll take a card from the deck without looking at it. You'll put that numbered card in front of you. So everyone around the table can see what number you've got, except for the number that's on their card. And then a random number gets taken off the deck and put down in the center, and that's it. And the aim of the game is basically be the last one standing. And what you have to do is you go through a series of rounds where you're betting on what the total value of cards in play is. So it's a bluffing game where you always have to lie, because not one player will ever know the truth of what is actually going on in the table. So all the information you have is the numbers that are on everyone's cards, and then the first player will start with the number, and then they will have to, and then the next player will either have to raise that number, so say a number that's higher, or they'll have to challenge the number that was just said. So let's say, for example, I'm playing, I don't know the number that's in front of me, but Peter, I can see that you've got a 5 in front of you, Chris, that you've got a 3, so a total of 8, and I don't know the card that's in front of me, but you can all see it, and it might be a 20. So if I say like 10, then you know that you can safely raise the number because you know that there's at least a minimum of 10 on the deck. And it goes round until someone finally challenges, and then all the cards are revealed. If the number of the total cards is lower than the number that has been challenged, then the person who has challenged will win, basically. And they get they get a bonus for doing that. However, if the number is equal to or higher than the total number of cards that are in play, then the person who did the challenge will lose, and the person who did the bidding will win. If you lose a life. You got 3 lives, then all those 3 lives are gone, and then you're out. And I mean, it seems on paper like that doesn't have much legs for a game, but it's quite surprising how quickly you cotton on to the fact that you have to do quite a lot with very minimal knowledge in front of you.
It's really interesting because I tend to avoid bluffing games, but this is actually one of the very few that I enjoy playing once and would happily enjoy playing again.
Yeah, it's strange how much fun you get from like such a small number of mechanics. Like, you think that there is, like, because there are minus numbers in there, there's always a chance that you're just going to get caught out by the deck anyway. So, but there's always, like, when we played it, there was moments that me and Kris would turn to each other because my wife had said something as a bid, and we'd know that, well, it's got to be higher than that number. So we like subconsciously try to like trap her in certain situations, which is really interesting. And yeah, it's really good fun. I'd have to say the one problem that Coyote has is that because it's a player elimination game, that the moment you get past beyond 3 players and it's like down to 2, it loses like a heck of a lot of steam. Right. Like, it kind of like all the pace and all the fun from the game just gets immediately sort of eviscerated, and you kind of left wandering, which is why Spicy.
Oh, that packaging.
Spicy is just like, for me, it's like one of those card games that comes along like once in a while, which just has all the goods. It just, I bought a German copy of this because I was so desperate to get hold of this. By Zoltan Gajori, and I think I've probably mispronounced that. The same way, lovely gold foiled cards, but in a different space. All the artwork is very sort of traditional Asian, traditional Chinese. So the concept of this is that, have you ever played the game Liar? So you probably played it when you were a kid.
No.
You've got a deck of...
Yes.
You've got a deck of cards, and you'll put a card down, face down. You'll go 3 of clubs, or you go 2 6s, and then the next player goes like 3 7s. And basically, you got to, if you say liar, then that person has to reveal all the cards. If it was 3 7s that they put down, then you lose the challenge. If it wasn't, you win the challenge. Very simple game. Spicy works in exactly the same way. So you've got 3 suits of cards, wasabi, pepper, and chili. And the artwork on the cards is exceptional. Like, the cards are numbered from 1 to 9. And basically, each card tells a story of a tiger getting ever so closer and closer, like inching towards the particular spice. And then by 9, they're like blowing fire out of their mouths as they're like interacting with the spice. Or
a bit like cockroach poker.
Yeah, and like in the case of wasabi, like the 9 is like literally like sweat from his eyeballs as he's like eating this like ton of wasabi. It's incredible. The twist in Spicy and why I absolutely love it is that you're doing exactly the same, where you'll pick a spice and you'll put down a card and say 3 of chili. And the next person has to do something higher, and they'll put like 4 of chili. And then someone will inevitably make a jump and be like 7 of chili. And if you challenge that, what you have to do is you have to make a decision whether you're challenging the number or the spice. So are they lying about the number or the spice that they've put down. So immediately, for me, what it does is it takes something like the traditional game of liar, where you are essentially playing against the person, like how well you know the person, how well a liar are they, how much of a liar are they, how well do you know their tells. And I think it adds just an element of deductiveness and reasoning into it, where even if you're not good at reading people, if you don't know essentially the people around the table, if you're not very good at bluffing, if you're not very good at lying, it brings just enough doubt into anyone who thinks they're so sure. Like, even if you know they're lying, you can never be sure what they're actually lying about. So it really evens out the playing field. And for a bluffing game, which is, like, I don't know many bluffing games because I tend to find them quite hit and miss. Like, cockroach poker has been, like, the pinnacle of the genre for me. And Coyote's great. But Spicy, I think, goes toe-to-toe with cockroach poker for me because it does such a great job of making the players around the table feel like welcomed by the game, that they don't have to be a great liar, like they don't have to like know what people's tells are, they don't have to like think tactically or count cards, like they can just play. And people will get stuff wrong because you always have to make that choice of, they're lying, but about what?
Exactly. And you can always flip a coin. And for me, Sam, the equivalent of that in cockroach poker is where, like, when somebody says, look, I'm playing a stink bug, and they slide the card towards you, you don't have to make that call there and then. You can actually choose to pick up the card, look at it and say, actually, and then pass it on to somebody else. And for somebody who tends to avoid bluffing games because I don't like that feeling of, oh, yeah, you were right, because I wasn't very good at lying. It makes me feel comfortable going into it because, as you say, I am lying, but what am I lying about? And you know, and if you even if you can't call it, just flip a coin, and you know, and it just keeps it fun. It keeps it exciting, and for me, bluffing games are at their best when everyone has a laugh, that it's not overly tense at all around the table, that actually the tension is, you know, somebody wants to laugh and they're stopping themselves, and it's that tension that I like particularly. And I think that, as you say, Sam, this brings that. Both Spicy and Coyote does that, definitely.
You know this time cap thing that I've got?
Go on.
Oh yeah.
So at the moment, like, very minimal goals, vitamin D every day, eat fruit 2, drink water 8 glasses, only allowed 1 snack a day, watch a film every month. I'm going to give you guys a power to add something to my time cap. Okay? So it can be either something I can track the time of, just something I can achieve by checking off, or something that I've got to get to a certain count of to achieve.
You got a choice of 2 from me, Sam.
All right.
The first one is, I've been reading this book, Humankind. It's kind of changed how I think about people, and a lot of it is to do with selflessness, other people seeing selflessness and acts of giving, encouraging other acts of giving, basically.
Okay.
So you can either do one good deed for a stranger, for somebody you don't know, and again, that very loose definition of that, once a month. Could be small, could be big, whatever you want. Or paint one of your Blood Bowl minis every month.
Oh, Sam, do you reckon you'd ever be tempted to think, oh, sod it, I'll just do everything in 3 hours and that'll be done? I'll do everything. I'll just neck all the water for the day in one go.
So this is Staying In, and that was the end of another episode of this podcast. My name's Sam Turner. I was on the show along with Kris Darby and Peter Willington. Thank you so much for listening. I hope your new year is going well. Honestly, we really do, and we really appreciate you listening and downloading the show, joining us on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, seeing our posts and commenting. It really means the world to us, and we really try and share a little bit of our lives with you to hopefully make everything that's going on seem a little bit less daunting and scary, hopefully. Fingers crossed. If you want to join us there, then just search for @StayingInPod. Now, if you are currently experiencing the joys of lockdown 3 and you're looking for something to do, something to keep yourself occupied, then we have got you covered. Not only is there extensive back catalogue of podcasts that you can listen to if you one of the people who've just joined us. You can do that by just scrolling back on your device of choice or going to stayinginpodcast.com. You can also, by using stayinginpodcast.com, get links to our Steam curated and Board Game Geek curated pages. On there we have all the video games we've ever spoken about, and we have all the board games we've ever spoken about, and links to what shows we spoke about them on. And so if you're looking for something to play, if there's just 2 of you in the house, maybe there's just 1 of you, or maybe there's 3 or 4 of you and you're looking for a game to play, we will have you covered. If you don't want to do all the legwork, just send us a message. Just ask us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. One of us will get back to you. If you're looking for a suggestion of something to play, we will be there. You can also send us an email, stayinginpod@gmail.com, if you have a question you want to ask, or maybe something that you think we should be sharing with everyone else on the show. You can join us and you can share with us. We welcome it. Anyway, until the next time, stay safe. Please look after yourselves and take care. Bye-bye.